Prashant, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to Shoshata SAPS, an organization that's created to connect and empower Albanian college students globally. At SAPS, their focus is to uplift the academic and professional paths of Albanian college students. They offer a variety of resources, including professional development training, career panels, and mentorships from established professionals, all tailored to foster your growth and success. By joining SAPS, you'll not only enhance your skill set through workshops and networking events, but also connect with a network of fellow Albanian college students. And this community support is designed to build lasting relationships, shared experiences, and create opportunities for collaboration among peers. So embrace the chance to be part of the community where your personal and professional development is their priority. And if you want to get involved, please complete the interest form linked down below or give Shoshata SAPS a follow. Their Instagram handle is shoshata.saps. And thank you very much. Prashant, and welcome to the EaglePod. I'm your host, Lorena, and I'm so excited to introduce our first guest on the pod, Luka Lamaj. Luka Lamaj is co-founder and CEO of Docere Health and was listed as top 50 Albanian personalities by Business Magazine Albanian. He's also won Student Champion Entrepreneur of the Year by DMZ, a world-leading entrepreneurial organization, and has recently won Young Entrepreneur of the Year by League of Innovators. He's earned his Bachelor's of Sciences in Biochemistry from Brock University in Ontario, and Lamaj has experience working in the tech industry and strives to create a positive impact in the world through technology and innovation. So it's my pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
Hi, Lorena. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
So before we kind of delve into your professional journey, we'd love to learn a little bit more about the person behind the expertise. So can you share a little bit about your life outside of being co-founder and CEO of Docere Health?
Yeah, of course. I came in Canada 4 years and a half, 5 years ago, basically. And my goal was, as every Albanian parent, like my mom was always telling me, become a doctor, become a doctor, become a
Oh,
doctor. So I chose to study, like you, pre-med slash biochemistry.
yeah.
So, but I was really in love with science. I was really in love with medicine since I was a kid. Uh, I love the problem solving aspect of it. So I I got very into that. I started doing some research in university. I did some months in different institutions that usually deal with cancer research, cancer cells, and that's when the moment when I learned more about how science works and how everything works. I did a lot of research in CRISPR-Cas9 with genetics in genetic labs, and lately before Docere, before my company, I also worked a little bit of proteomics in proteome sequencing. So I've been a lot of a big nerd or a big fan of science for a lot of years, and that kind of shifted after I started my own company, which is not a pure science platform. It's more like a healthcare system platform that we're trying to solve the healthcare system in Canada, especially the primary care. But really, it didn't continue with that goal or with that journey that I started with the pure science. And outside of my company or my background, I am a big fan of different things, including philosophy, history. I had also, in the beginning, very, very early stages of my career, I had also my own podcast
Oh.
in history.
Uh-huh.
When I talked about history in general, I talked about history of Albania too there. So I'm a big fan of different. I'm more than
What was
just
your podcast name?
cool historians.
Cool. Okay, cool. I'll check that out after.
Yeah, for sure you should. I'm a big fan of different cultures of physics. I mean, and this is what I always tell people that someone that is a founder, or someone that is successful, someone that is a lawyer, a doctor, it should be more than just a lawyer, or it should be more than just a career, right? It should be more colorful and understanding more about different things. And that's how you become even more successful than you actually are, because you have a higher intellect and a higher enlightenment, basically, in order to achieve more stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I, very family oriented, like every Albanian ever.
Yeah.
So, and actually, that's why I came here in Canada to study medicine, right? Just because of my family.
Yeah. What has been the most difficult thing that you've had to adjust since immigrating here?
That's a good question. I mean, like one of my immigration was not as bad. I mean, it is a relative thing, but my, my my immigration was not as bad as, for example, someone that comes illegally and tries to make it out like that way, and works. But mine was more a student immigration. It was more an intellectual way of immigrating, right? I came here for studies, and then I stayed here. But there are problems, of course, and there is a lot of differences when you come here, especially if you want to be in the tech world, and especially if you want to be successful in the tech world. You have to be very smart, but also in the sense of very, 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 in a way, even sneaky, right? Because it's a lot of I don't want to say the word, but it's a lot of people that don't want you to succeed, for lack of a better word, right? So there are a lot of people that want to, especially if you are an immigrant, you are Albanian. Like, why would you give you the chance? Would give it to a Canadian, or would you give it to an American, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard. People don't understand really, but it's very hard. And especially even between, like, even in college or in university, within the students themselves, it's just that consideration that you should finish your college and go do a MD or go do a PhD, and then maybe after that you can think of doing something else. So it's a very, very straightforward way of living, and it's a pattern that everybody should follow. And when you go against the pattern, you will have a lot of problems within your friend groups, or within the people that you hang out with. So that's one of the things that you have to adjust very well, like that mentality or the mindset portion. But of course, other than that, loneliness, anxiety that can create it by being lonely without being away from your family, it's also unfortunate that you have to fight with that too. And you have to fight with adapting in a new environment, in a new ecosystem. There are a lot of things that you have to adapt when you come here, at least in my case as a student.
Yeah. So you knew English before moving over here perfectly? Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's
I
good.
have an accent.
Oh, well, that's okay. I don't think the accent ever goes away.
Exactly. It's very hard. It's very hard. But a lot of people tell me they never guess Albania, because Albania is not very known, right? Especially in Canada. I mean, in US, maybe they're starting to know us a little bit more, especially in different cities. You can tell me more, but like in different cities and in different states, when we had a lot of immigration. And maybe in Toronto, Albanians are known a little bit, but outside of Toronto, like, I don't know, Quebec, for example, like the French side of Canada, they don't really know where Albania is, right? So they guess, I don't know, Greek, say Italian. They say everything except Albania, so it's pretty funny.
No, that's relatable. My parents, they immigrated here from Shkodra. So I was born here, so I don't have an accent, obviously. But my
I can see
parents,
that,
but my parents
do,
and they've always gotten like Greek or Italian, and I'm always like, oh, it's like this is never ending. I'm like, no, we're Albanian. Like, where's Albania from? Where's Albania at? We always have to say like, oh, between Greece, Italy, show them a map. Yeah.
Has it ever happened to you that these happen to me all the time? They guess either Albany in New York.
Oh, I've gotten that too.
Yeah. I've got also Armenia. They mistake it with Armenia.
Oh yes, Armenia.
Armenia,
Yes.
One guy told me once, "Oh yeah, Albania. Is that where Kim Kardashian is from?"
Yeah.
That's Armenia. That's
My
not
mom has
Armenia.
gotten that. My next question kind of ties to Docere Health. As most of us in the healthcare field know, the pandemic has increased the awareness and the use of telehealth services worldwide. And it's also, reduced healthcare costs and made care more accessible to everyone, especially patients that reside in rural areas. And so the telemedicine industry is only growing, and it's having lasting impacts in the healthcare system. So being the co-founder of Docere Health, which I've seen, it's one of the world's first no-code telemedicine platform. And its mission is to basically empower physicians to launch and manage their own virtual clinics, saving them lots of money and also providing free healthcare services to Canadian patients. Can you first kind of start out by explaining to our listeners about what no-code development means and its advantages in the healthcare industry, as well as how these virtual clinics would sort of look like from both a physician and a patient perspective?
No, that's a good question. So we went even beyond that lately, but I'll tell you a little bit more
Okay.
about our new updates. We started with this concept of no coding telemedicine platform, which means basically the doctor doesn't need to have any coding experience, and they can build all the back ends of their clinic immediately, basically, without any software developer being there or any medical assistant or any nurse practitioners being there, right? So that was the first phase of the platform. That was the first portion that we built, and we started with virtual clinics, and now we're going to also physical clinics because we saw another big problem with clinics here in Canada, especially. That is, so what we're trying to do essentially is combat the burnouts that family physicians, specifically family physicians, have. I know that the U.S. is the same problems, very similar problems, but in Canada it's very bad right now. It's been very, very bad. All over the news, you can hear people that say the patients that say we don't have family physicians, and government people that say 1 in 4 Ontarians, specifically in Ontario, will not have a family physician by 2026. So that's a big, big, huge problem, right? And that's why we said, you know what, let's give them a chance. Let's give the doctors a chance. Let's give them a way so they not only make more money or accept more patients, but also they save a lot of time within their clinics, and they create that sense of efficiency. And we saw telemedicine or virtual care as part of the problem. But the full picture is creating a new system, creating a new cloud, creating a new infrastructure for primary care. And that's what we're doing right now. We're creating a new infrastructure which is backed up by artificial intelligence from the beginning that automates, categorizes, and summarizes a lot of the data for family physicians, starting from intake forms, so basically pre-medical questionnaires, and ending with communication with the hospital, the pharmacies, or even referral letters and diagnosis and prescriptions. So we automate everything of that. And we help doctors. We are the assistant of the doctor. We are the background, assistant that the platform is not being the platform that does everything the doctors need, without doctors not necessarily inputting as much data as they were inputting before. Listen, Lorena, in Canada, there was a there's a very, very heavy statistic that came out of it based on a research report that the Ministry of Health put on. And it said that a family physician spends around 27 minutes per patient encounter. So for each patient, they spend 27 minutes. That seems like a fair, good statistic. But when they dived in with what it actually 27 minutes means, it showed that there were 7 minutes with the patient and 20 minutes in front of the computer inputting data. So we went from paper to computer, and we spent twice more time than we were spending with paper just to digitalize healthcare, right? So that's something that not necessarily happens in hospitals. This happens a lot with clinicians, so in the clinic system. That's why we're trying to fix that. We're trying to fix the need to input data continuously and basically that means all the administrative tasks and all the administrative burden gets cut off, or most of it. And the physician actually spends more time with the patient. And then if the physician wants to go home early, still they have the virtual clinic system that they can use that can, can talk to the patient whenever they want or whenever they need, without bothering them to come to the clinic and then go back home and then come back to the clinic. Like it's a lot of steps that can be avoided with that. And that would be very beneficial, especially in big cities like Toronto, New York City, I don't know, Montreal, like big cities where you have a lot of traffic, where you have a lot of problems, you cannot be all the time in and out. And what happens is the family physicians spend all their time in the clinic, or they tell their patients, you know what, I'm not seeing you today. I'll see you next month, after 2 months.
Yeah. I've been a scribe for about 6 months, so I definitely understand the physician that I worked for. He was just feeling
So
really burned out, and
the physician hired you to be a scribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Imagine that. That's insane. Like
Yeah.
the fact that should exist is insane because it's easily automatable. But there are a lot of startups that are doing that, right? They're doing scribe. But how can you do scribe when you don't build the infrastructure first, right? What are you going to integrate it with? Sure, with EHR systems that are very outdated, I guess, but you're still going to open a new tab, and the doctors are going to get confused, and they're going to be like, you know what, I don't want to try this one.
Yeah.
I was going to hire Lorena.
Especially the older physicians. Yes.
Oh my God. They're not going to even listen to you when you pitch your company, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they hired Lorena, because Lorena is a human at least, and that she can do it herself, right? She doesn't need any input. So it's quite interesting actually, like how the system works and how it's not been fixed yet. This type of small problems and problematics. The things that we're creating in house, including telemedicine, including scribe, including SOAP notes, including intake forms, that all is done fully integratable since the genesis, since the first point, right? Not after with different tools. We created in the beginning, and they're part of the infrastructure, and they're part of the system, and all the data goes into our system, right? So it's a different way of seeing it and looking at things. So Teladoc is just one specific thing, which is telemedicine. And by the way, Teladoc had a big problem. The telemedicine industry is going through a lot of tough times right now.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of money. The Teladoc stock market. Retail investors lost a lot of money. And to be fair, I'm sorry I'm changing a little bit the topic, but I really want to talk about this too, because digital health startups in general are failing. Like Babylon Health had a very bad failure. A lot of other startups were just basically scams. And one of two main reasons why they're failing, and which we found a way to avoid that, is the first one is that their business model sucks. They sell directly to physicians, and physicians don't, as we just discussed, physicians don't even want to listen to you. Like first of all, they don't have time. Second of all, like, what are you going to sell them? Like, it's not. They're not going to buy it. Like, they're not going to open again. They're not going to open a new Windows, and they're going to buy. So imagine a physician that buys 3 different softwares: Scribe, telemedicine, EHR, and then buys a new one for intake forms, and then buys a new one for the referral letters.
It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So they're not going to buy it. And the second one is that they're creating a tool. They're not creating an actual platform.
Okay.
Tools are cool. You can integrate it with Epic, Epic, I'm sure, like the EHR system in hospitals. But does it really solve the problem? It doesn't solve the problem. You can make Epic a little bit more interesting and more fascinating. But what about the clinics? Like, what's happening with clinicians? Because Epic it's highly used in hospital systems. It is very good for hospital system, or Meditech, or Cerner, or Oscar, right? But what about clinics? What happens in the clinics? So that's why we think it's a good way that we avoided both of these traps that a lot of digital health startups go through.
Mentioned this as well, but kind of just what was the inspiration behind co-founding Docere Health?
As a big fan of medicine, I really was looking into a lot of problems the healthcare system was having in Canada, and I was kind of figuring that out. And the first time that I actually thought about it very well was when I went to Montreal,
Mhm.
because I lived in Quebec for a while. And I went into a hospital in Montreal, and the wait lines were terrible. And that was kind of like the moment that I said, like there's something going on here. Like we're not in Albania anymore. Like what's happening? Like Albanian healthcare system is better than this. What the hell? So that's the moment that I really thought about, changing something and trying to change something.
Mhm.
And then I went more details. I saw every aspect of it. And which faults is it? Is it the patient's fault? Is it the government's fault? Or is it the physician's fault? And I figured out that it was no one's fault. It was just uh, a system problem, a systematic problem. Canada produces not a lot of family physicians; they produce more specialists. So we have a shortage of family physicians in general in Canada, right? And we have Canada has a growing number of patients that are coming from different countries from immigration, and that's very similar also to the United States because the United States have doctors, but also have a lot of patients, a lot of patients, a lot of people that want to have family doctors. And in Canada, that just kills physicians because the physicians are not private; they are public, right? So
Yeah.
they get paid by the government by Ovid. So they need to actually make a quota and they need to see as many patients as they can. But in the end of the day, they're humans too. They're not robots, right? So they're going to get burned out. So that was the problem that I saw. And I saw 10,000 physicians burning out every year with a country that doesn't have more than 40,000 physicians, family physicians we're talking. So it was sad. It was sad. 1/4 of physicians getting burned out. It's a lot. It's a big number. It's a huge number, actually. So that's why we created Docere Health to fix this problem.
Hello, hello. Today's fun fact of the day is in 1967, Albania made history by becoming the world's first official atheist country. Under the leadership of Enver Hoxha, all churches and mosques were either demolished or repurposed as sports arenas, warehouses, or other secular structures. Hoxha also implemented strict border controls, and from 1967 till the collapse of communism in 1990, public displays of faith were prohibited. Now back to our guest speaker. Okay. So, in addition to being co-founder of Docere Health, you're also the founder and host of the Digital Health Conference. What was kind of the inspiration behind that, and what are you trying to achieve long term with that?
That's wow, you've done your research.
Yes.
That's a good one. I hosted a digital health conference with Microsoft,
Mhm.
and I have very good relationship with Microsoft. I won the first place in their startup pitch competition in North America.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like the beginning of our relationship with Microsoft. And we hosted one in their offices, a huge one, with a lot of startups being part of it, including also my company. But really, the concept or inspiration behind it was I saw that a lot of digital health startups were failing and had a lot of problems. And me as a student, I understand. I had a lot of lack of resources. And to be fair, Lorena, like you are a smart girl, and might I don't know might think of creating a startup on your own. It's one day, and it's a medical startup. It's a digital health startup. Where are you going to start? How are you going to talk to doctors? It's very hard. It's very they're so again they're so burned out because they're always working. Where are you going to find them? So a good excuse to find them would be a conference,
Mhm.
and a better excuse to find them would be a digital health conference. So I invited a lot of the stakeholders like hospitals and doctors and people that maybe the startups that were part of it would get some advantages, would get some value out from. So that's why I actually worked with very well with them to organize this conference, and it went very well. It was very successful. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to host it more than just once a year, 3 times a year at different themes: biotechnology, digital health, med tech, medical devices. Like healthcare is so big too. So I really want to create that community behind this community, and not only Toronto, but we're trying most probably also in San Francisco, in New York, in Boston. Like we'll start different cities too. I still believe that the best ideas, quoting René Descartes, who is a French philosopher, one of the fathers of French Revolution, And he said the best ideas or the good ideas come from the soul, they don't come from the brain. I'm a big fan of that, and I believe that even though there's a lot of like our conference and our community that we're trying to build that are very good resources, still idea has to come from the founder, from the student, or from the from the person that is sometimes like had enough of something and wants to create it, right? It has to come from the soul. It has to be a personal story, I believe, in order to create a very great startup company or success story. Because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to create a startup in order to be successful, innovative. You can do it in other different ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, passion is very important because like you're gonna have failures and you're gonna need something to.
Oh my God, man! Seriously, you're gonna suffer a lot.
Yes.
There's a concept for that Nietzsche created actually. That it's amor fati, like it's from Latin. It means falling in love with your faith, right? You have to understand. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about this because I think it's very important for founders. I'm sorry that I'm taking it.
No, you're fine. I love hearing it all.
Yeah, there's this concept of Jean Paul Sartre, which is who is another French philosopher, very atheistic. He didn't believe in God, and he was very strong philosopher, very not traditional one, and he said that God, and coming after Nietzsche saying God is dead and humans killed God, coming out of that expression, that God is it's not the same form as we think God is. He says that God is in form of human. Humans have God inside them, basically. Like they have that sense of enlightenment inside them. The only thing that we make mistakes though is that we don't take decisions and we don't follow that decisions. So in order to create a good, like I'm talking specifically for startups right now, linking it back with startup world, or companies or businesses in general, if you want to create a good startup, you have to make decisions all the time, and you have to stick with those decisions till the end. And no matter what happens, again, you have to fall in love with your faith. You have to fall in love with the suffering, and you have to understand that you are maybe going to be alone sometimes, and maybe you're going to be everyone is going to hate you, or everyone's going to say don't do that. But you still have to do it because in your mind you made that decision, right? You are as intellectually enlightened to understand that you're going to do it and you're going to make a decision, and you're not going to give up, because if you give up, then it means you didn't follow through with the decisions that you made, right?
Yeah.
So it is a very cool and interesting journey to be a founder, because you learn all this stuff within the way and practically. Philosophers talk most of the time, but when the moment that you reach that practically and you understand what they mean, it's a very cool experience.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I was one of my next questions is, have you had any mentors who played a significant role in your journey? Like someone you mentioned like having, people who didn't want to see you succeed and all that, but have you had one supporter from day one that kind of just motivated and helped you out? Or
Of course. I had my professor, actually. He was Professor Agostino. He was my big mentor that supported me and actually taught me a lot of stuff. So I didn't get a lot of my success to him. I didn't get a lot of my success to my mom, who taught me to be intellectually active since I was 13. Made me read books. That helped me a lot, actually, with what I told you, with surpassing and falling in love with suffering, right? And of course, also my dad that taught me how to sacrifice. It's funny. I sound right now like I don't know if you know. Do you know Marcus Aurelius?
Yes, I do. Yes.
He's a Stoic philosopher. He wrote the meditation, right? I don't know if you read it, but
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Okay. In the beginning of the book, you remember he talks about his uncle and his father, and they taught him that.
Yeah.
And taught him that. That's how he taught right now. But it's true. Like
That's
I learned a lot of stuff from different people that were in my life, and very important people that were in my life.
Yeah. No, for me, going back to what you just said, my parents, well, my dad especially, like I was in first grade. I was 7 years old, and we would go to the libraries and he would be like, okay, read these encyclopedias. Like,
That's funny.
I don't even know how to read. He would just like try to explain things to me and everything, and just tried to instill the like love of books and learning in me as a kid too. So
So you have a very good connection with your dad, eh?
Yes, I do. My mom too. Both parents.
I know, of course. But is that also part of the psychology that usually daughters are born with a father, but those sons are all born with a mother?
Oh yeah.
That's Freudian
Yeah.
psychology. Yeah, that's a different story. That's a different topic. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, makes sense. Though makes sense. I think culture. It's also very big important
Mhm.
aspect of it. We from the region that we come from. I'm not saying only country, but the region. We're very aggressive people in the sense of we are very ambitious and very we try to make it,
Yeah.
and that helps. That helps a lot with being different from others that are from different cultures, who are a little bit more maybe lazy culture or maybe
Yeah.
more sleepy cultures, as Nietzsche would say. But we're also lucky that we come from this type of aggressive and very high-blooded temper people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like I have some friends who, parents are very successful Americans and they have businesses, they have things and their kids, well, my friends, they're very comfortable with everything. It's
They're
like
happy.
they've had everything given to them. So they just don't strive. And in my head, like I'm talking to my parents about this or my other Albanian friends, and I'm like, these people have the resources, they have the opportunities to do something, for themselves other than, what their parents have. And I'm like, how do they not take advantage of all this, like all these things? And it's just mind blowing to me because like coming from a family where we didn't really have those opportunities and stuff, I was the first one to, go into get a college degree, get a master's. My parents only had completed a high school education. And so I'm like, okay, well, I had to kind of dig my way, network with people, find, these resources for me and with no one's help. Well, school kind of helped a little bit, but not as much as you'd think.
No,
And
no, of course not. Of
yeah,
course not. It's
so
you. It's you at the end of the day.
yeah,
You're pretty much alone in a lot of the stuff.
yeah,
But again, that's going to be the theme of the of the podcast.
yeah,
The theme of the podcast.
yeah.
You have to suffer. You have to. I think in order to be successful, you have to suffer, and you have to overcome the fears. You have to overcome the suffering. You have to overcome the desires sometimes, right? In order to become successful, in order to become the best. You know what it is, Lorena? I think it's being happy. It's not even becoming successful because success is very relative. Success for me is not the same as success for you, right? So
Yeah.
I believe it's either becoming happy. And in order to be happy, you have to know yourself, right? So in order to know yourself, that's why you need those experiences of suffering and being low sometimes and being, you know, reading some books sometimes because that's when you really understand what you want, what you like, what are your passions, what is your desires, what is your love, and then you can choose more wisely. So knowing yourself is very important in order to be happy. Actually, it's the most important. It's the only most important thing.
Yeah. Next question was, what's the biggest piece of advice you received? But you kind of just
Yeah,
already
that I received
talked a bit. Yeah.
because this is I learned this. Like I
Oh,
read
okay, okay.
this right, and this is, again part of my learning journey. But
Yeah.
I received from someone. It's from my mentor and from my mom. It's always have humility and always be humble. Human beings, and then I can expand a little bit on that. Human beings tend to create different uh, reactions and tend to put different reactions on actions or sorry on events that happen in their life. So we judge stuff. So if something happens to me, it's either positive or it's negative. If it's negative, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be bored. I'm going to be so hurt, etc., etc., etc. But when it's positive, think we are the God, or we think we are I'm so good, I'm so much better than the others. Both of them extremities cause defeat, and in history we have learned this a lot. It's quite interesting how figures like Napoleon, which was a genius, uh, lost and lost had a very amazing, fascinating fall as it was his upbringing, right? His rising was very fascinating and very amazing. But also his fall was very amazing because that was the moment when he said, I think I'm the God on earth and I'm the prophet. That's what he said actually in his book, in his diary. And that was the moment that he felt because he thought he couldn't lose.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the moment that he said that, after that he lost in Russia, and then he lost in Battle of Butter. Same for, Constantine the Panailagos, who is the guy that actually lost Constantinople, and Sultan Mehmed II won Constantinople, right, during the Byzantine Empire. Also, he said, "I am God on earth. I'm the God chosen one to continue the Christianity within Eastern Europe, the Orthodoxy." He lost. He lost it, and it's actually quite interesting, and that is with comes with the self, without being humble, without being humble, without understanding that, you know what, you're human. You can be a superhuman, like Nietzsche says, the Ubermensch, but you're still a human. You still have instincts. You still have intuition, and you should overcome those. But at the end of the day, don't think that you are so much better than the others. So don't underestimate others, because you never know who are you dealing with, and you never know if you're competing. So I really believe in that. I really hate underestimation, and I like when people underestimate me too, because it means that I have an edge and I have an advantage against them.
That brings us to the end of another insightful episode, and it was great talking to you. And thank you so much for being on the pod, our first guest. And thank you for sharing your experiences and wisdom with us today. I hope our listeners found as much value in this conversation as I did. And as we wrap up, I want to remind you all to subscribe, like, and follow. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out to us on our Instagram page, EaglePod_. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.